Well, hello. It has been a hot minute since I have posted anything at all on this channel. There are reasons for that. Life. I think the last time I posted anything, it involved knitting with a broken wrist. It healed, yay, but it took about a year of wearing a brace and a year of doing other things. So here's a little catch up. I planned to record this last night. It is 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. Yeah. I had grand plans to record this last night, but I am out in the pod camper and we had thunderstorms blow through last night. The last time I tried to record in the camper during a thunderstorm, a literal tornado went over our house and it was very, very, very loud. You guys don't want to hear that. So, what have I been up to? All right, I have a variety of projects in progress. I don't know about you, but I tend to keep different projects in different stations around the house and the car and wherever I happen to be. So I guess we'll just kind of start with a random one. Okay, this is one of my car projects. It is a Musselburgh. Some people say Musselburgh, some people say Musselburgh. I don't care, take your choice. This is made out of leftovers from a sweater project that I finished this fall using Forbidden Fibers Fortitude in the Old Barn colorway. And I picked that up from a creative reuse store. Somebody informed me that secondhand craft stores are actually a thing. I didn't know this. And I picked up an entire sweater quantity for like 60 bucks. Wow. And so then I had some leftovers. And then I also used this burgundy color. I think it's actually called Black Grape. It's by Urth, U-R-T-H. I don't know why it's called Black Grape because to me that is clearly red. But it combined perfectly, and so there we go. So this will be a hat to go with a sweater. And I tend to keep that one in the car because it fits in a purse really well. And then I have another Musselburgh in progress. And this, let's see what this yarn is because I actually saved the label. This is Three Irish Girls Adorn Luxe in the Brigida colorway. And I work on this at hockey games where the team colors are red, white, and blue. So at some point I will have a hockey team colored Musselburgh. And I'm thinking about putting white stripes on there on the second half of it, but we'll see. Depends on whether I remember to put it in there before the next game. But, you know, hockey season's pretty much over for this team, so I don't have to worry about that till October. All right, so I also have another car project. I take this to places where I am sitting for a long time, such as Bible study. So I have this garter stitch corner to corner blanket, and I have finished the corner to corner part. So now I am putting on this applied border just for some visual interest, because otherwise a solid green, sage green blanket's not all that interesting. All right. And so I have, let's see, I have a pair of socks that are going to get a heel someday very soon. And you'll notice very, very colorful. And then I have another pair of socks that are going to get a heel very soon. And then I have two pairs of socks that already have heels. And there's a whole scheme to this. Um, there are 5 adults, myself included, that are supposed to be testing for a black belt in Taekwondo this summer. And so I thought, oh, I'll make us all socks. We're not going to wear these in August, but I want to present them like at black belt graduation. These are made out of the Hobbii Friends sock wool. And as you can see, I ordered a whole bunch of different colors. And I thought that I would be really clever and kind of measure out the yarn ahead of time and wind up this kind of scrappy skein so that I didn't have to sit there and change colors while I'm knitting and worry about weaving in those ends. That didn't work out so great because my measurements were off. Yeah, so I'm still having to count my rows and change them out. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have joined them in a big old scrappy skein, but now I know. All right, so I have some acquisitions. As everybody in the yarn world knows, Joann is shutting down. My local one, I went on a Monday and I think everything was marked down to 50% off, but their yarn was down to one side of one aisle, and it was like the Big Twist value stuff. That's pretty much all they had. But they did have, I found some actual wool blend. This is Draper James in the pickled beet colorway. This will probably just end up being a plain old sweater, but I think the reason that I think that is because I have a sweatshirt that is in basically this exact same shade, so maybe that's where that idea is coming from. We'll see. I also found some mandala string in the jazz colorway. I think this probably wants to be a lightweight summer tank. Winding this up, this seems to like to catch on itself a whole lot. So, because I was converting it from this skein to a cake, and I probably had to stop about 5 times to untangle it from itself. So we're gonna see how I like this. I did do a gauge swatch, which I don't have out here. Knitting on it from a cake seemed to be a lot better than working on it from the skein that it comes in. So hopefully that's a good thing. Then I went down to another Joann, same week, and everything was marked down to 70% off, and they had a whole lot more yarn. They had stuff that I had never actually seen in Joann before, colorways that I know weren't there before because I would have bought them then. But I did get this K&C Essential Wool in the Waterfall colorway. I got a sweater's quantity worth of that. We'll see. Maybe something cabled, because I have a yearning to make something cabled right now. But what I have envisioned is a very heavyweight sweater, and this is Texas. It's May. It's already hot. I don't want to actually knit a heavyweight sweater right now. I have big things to get done, so we're going to see. And I have a feeling that this video is going to be very jostly. As I said, I'm in the pod camper, and if I move, everything moves. Sorry. All right, so those were my commercial acquisitions. I did get to visit East Texas Fiber Festival back at the end of March. Picked up a couple of interesting indie dye things. This is Bashful Armadillos. Let's see, what is the name? Well, this is some kind of a fingering weight, and it is a merino and nylon blend. And the colorway is And Venus Was Her Name. I don't know what this is going to be. It'll tell me later. And I also picked up Lazy Cat Yarn Elemental in the Roadside Attraction colorway. I think this is inspired by bluebonnets, which it would have been going into peak bluebonnet season when I bought this, so that makes sense. If you've never seen the bluebonnets in Texas, come down here in early April before it gets too terribly hot, typically before tornado season starts, although that, you never know. But yeah, everybody likes to park on the side of the road and plop their kids down in a field of bluebonnets, get their pictures. What they don't actually realize is that that is also rattlesnake breeding season, and they love bluebonnet fields too. So yeah, be careful if you decide to do that. All right, I have 2 finished objects, but one of them is not actually here. So maybe through the magic of editing, I will be able to insert a photo here of, you guessed it, a Musselburgh hat. I was working on it at a graduation party because, what are you going to do when you don't know most of the people there? And the graduate asked, "Is that for me?" And I managed to finish it while I was there and stuck it on her head, and then I left. That was one that I had to frog because it was just too wide, and it kind of sat on my head like that. That didn't work. And so I unraveled that whole thing and went a little bit smaller, and it worked a whole lot better. I also have this. This is the Soleil top from Knitty.com, and I used some Cascade Sunseeker shade. I actually bought this yarn probably 10 years ago. It's a nice workhorse yarn. Now, as I mentioned, I'm in Texas. It's hot. And people will watch movies, and there will be like people at the beach, and then evening comes and it cools off, and they're all wearing like hoodies and sweaters in the summer at the beach. And that doesn't happen here. Like in peak summer, it's still 95 degrees at 10 p.m. Nobody's wearing a sweater here. And so, in my thinking, if it's cool, if it's hot enough for no sleeves, it's too hot for a sweater. If it's cool enough for a sweater, it's too cold for sleeves. So this one, I am not certain if I am ever going to wear this, but also that's a very deep V-neck. That hits me in a very immodest spot. So if I do wear it, I am going to have to knit some kind of lace work or something right here and attach it, because otherwise I'm gonna be flashing the goods at everybody, and I will be adjusting it all day long, and then I promise I will never wear that thing again. But we'll see. Life. I got my garden put in. There's a local nursery that has a customer appreciation day, usually the day before Mother's Day, and so I picked up a bunch of vegetables. We have got cantaloupe in the ground. That'll take a couple of months. We've got tomatoes and peppers in pots. We've got some cucumbers in the ground, some squash, eggplant, okra, and I just planted pumpkin the other day and some zucchini. We're waiting for some stuff to get over some transplant shock, but if it works out, great, because it was free. I also had a volunteer pumpkin come up last year, or from last year's pumpkin, that your jack-o'-lantern kind of sits out there. It had a seed in it. It rotted in place because, yeah, I'm on top of that. But now I have a pumpkin growing right next to my garden plot, so I just have to make sure that nobody weed eats it. So we'll protect and baby that a little bit. We also got some cauliflower, so we're going to wait and see. I'm sitting there looking at a lot of vegetables, and I'm like, but I'm doing keto right now, and I can't eat that. So why do I want to grow that? So we're going to see how this goes. We also had a lot of sunflowers come up volunteer, so I thinned those out. They actually came up among the onions and the garlic. So I have one raised bed that there's a whole lot going on there, but those are about to be harvested, so we'll see if the sunflowers do anything interesting. I mean, I know they'll get huge. We had one that came up volunteer about 2 years ago, and I just left it because I thought it was pretty. And then the next year we had another one that came up volunteer. And then this year we had probably 15 that came up volunteer, and I left about 5 or 6 of them strategically placed. So we are in the final week of school, and my daughter woke up this morning. When's the last day? I was like, you got 4 more days. But we're in survival mode to get through that. And so, of course, I thought, oh, I'll start recording a podcast again because, it's a busy week. Why not? Once we get out of school, we've got like field days and award ceremonies and more award ceremonies and early releases. So once we get through that, then we have Memorial Day weekend, get a nice long rest in, and then we get to go to work all day long, like a traditional 9 to 5, instead of having to leave early to go meet the bus to make sure that my children don't kill each other because, they can't be trusted alone together. That's going to require some meal planning because after work, then we'll have to go over to karate. And as I said, testing for black belts. So there is a lot of training going on this summer. Probably 4 or 5 days a week. So we're not going to have a lot of evenings at home. So that's going to require some meal planning because I don't want to have to go out to eat for every meal. And I need stuff that is easy to microwave. But I've also got picky eaters, and it has to be keto friendly. So hit me up with your best meal planning ideas. Probably going to end up doing a lot of chicken bowls with cauliflower rice because, I can't have happy rice. I have to have the sad rice. But if I can zhuzh it up enough, maybe I won't notice the difference. So I will try to fill you in again in a couple of weeks, and maybe I will have some interesting stuff to show you. Bye.